Robert, we're back.
We're back.
Good Friday.
Good Friday, yeah. Good Friday. I tell you what, seems to be a lot of people at home not going to work today. What's all that about?
What a beautiful day, though.
Absolutely stunning day. I tell you what, the shame is that we can't go out fishing.
Yeah.
Because it's absolutely stunning. I don't know if I can get my legs high enough. No, I can't.
On.
I've got my shorts on today.
Got my shorts on.
Yeah, I've got my shorts on today.
I've got the paddling pool in the garden.
We've had the paddling pool out as well.
The barbecue's on.
Yeah. Oh, barbecue, yeah.
Barbecue's on. Might even enjoy a cold beer after I've done this.
Yeah. So it's what you make of it, isn't it? Because obviously you can still have a decent time when you're stuck at home.
Let me tell you, I have had a brilliant week. Really enjoyed myself. Been doing my work, obviously, and then on an evening and just enjoying it, spending plenty of time with the people around us, and that's good.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I've realised. I've had a few people message me about this, and I've realised it as well, because this is how I've tried to maybe live my life, is that if you just slow down and actually take stock of what's going on around you, obviously it's easier if you're living in a nice area and you've got the countryside around you.
Go on, carry on. I've got an important delivery.
Or is it beer? If you've got the countryside around you and the sun's out, I always say there's no better place in the world than this country. It's absolutely brilliant. Green everywhere. Lovely weather. Not too hot, but still warm enough for you to enjoy yourself. And I just think it's fantastic. You go out and it's just beautiful. It's just really, really nice.
Really
like
good,
I say, it's just a shame we can't get out and wet a line and sample it a little bit more, though.
So what I've got here,
right,
is a
sausage sandwich.
Sausage sandwich. Look at that.
Fair play.
I think I'm gonna wait though. I don't want anyone to hear me chewing.
No, it might be a bit too hot as well.
Yeah. So it's really good, isn't it? Like I know this might sound it's not sad at all, but I even spotted a little Jenny Wren nesting in my garden yesterday. Took some pictures of that.
Yeah, I've seen the pictures, the little bird box.
Yeah, lovely.
Yeah, fantastic. We went snake hunting yesterday.
Did you? Find it?
Because a minute behind us, there's a bit that looks absolutely perfect for snakes. And I've seen a little video of Chris Yates catching a snake on Facebook. And we, at our old field where we used to have some ponies, there's a river and a bit of an embankment. And as kids, we used to see loads of snakes there. So I always say to my lad, we'll go snake hunting whenever we go out taking a dog for a walk. And we were looking through all the bracken yesterday, trying to spot one. Because the sun's out, and you expect maybe the odd snake to be there, but no, not on there.
Slow worms, remember them?
I've never seen one.
Haven't you? We used to find them in our garden all the time. I've never seen one for years.
Right. I think when you're a kid, you're a bit more explorative.
Yeah, you're probably not scared of the consequences, are you?
No, you're not.
So much.
No.
So we're having a good time, aren't we?
We're having a beautiful time. Family
vibes.
time. Spend time with the family. Get your brownie points in as well, so everyone can go maybe do a bit more fishing when we can get out there.
Stocked up.
Yeah, brownie points stocked up. And I tell you what, these videos that we've been doing, the positivity and all the nice comments and the extra questions that's coming through.
Wonderful, isn't it?
Absolutely brilliant, yeah. So it's not just on YouTube where people have commented. They've commented on Facebook. I'm getting private messages. Or on your next video, Rob, can you answer this? All positive, really happy stuff, which I think is good at the minute.
It's brilliant to see. And likewise, we've done some with like Dave Ship on the Preston channel. Yeah. And they're like chunky watches, you know. The one I put on today is an hour and 40 minutes.
Right.
And people love it. But it's really nice.
I think because it's almost podcast style, they can put the headphones in.
Just listen. And
they can just listen to it. So if you're sitting there making the dinner, you can listen to it. If your missus is watching something on the telly, you can just listen to it. You can just listen. You can treat it as almost like a radio show, podcast style.
Yeah. So we thank everyone that's watched it.
Thanks very much. It's good. It's nice. It keeps us accountable as well, doesn't it?
Yeah. So what should we get on to first then, Rob?
Well, you tell me if you've got an interesting question, because I've got one that probably leads on from what we were talking about last.
I'll go with that then.
Right. Well, I've got two. They probably lead on from each other, really. I've got probably three topics here. The first one, because we were talking about last time, and obviously the sun's out, so it's pretty apt, I suppose, is that a maggot alternative or a castor alternative, because obviously you hear about shallow fishing for F1s and for Ide and things like that. And the video we were talking about last time was where we caught a load of F1s and Ide at Tunnerbarn Farm, and I used a massive amount of maggots. And I've had a question saying, I can't really afford a load of maggots. What is the alternative? What can I do as an alternative?
Yeah.
And, you know, I love maggots and casters, and so do you. So in my mind, there's not really an alternative, but they're expensive. And I think, well, you tell me, I think you've got to probably, obviously, pellets are
Pellets are obviously the easy one, aren't they?
The easy option. But it's almost like you want to go small with your pellets. And I remember a period that I had fishing, feeding micro pellets, because you're only doing it, if you're fishing maggot shallow, you're usually at 6 or 7 meters. I remember a period I had feeding micro pellets. And what you did is you created quite a big area, and obviously micros fall really slow, and then fishing a small pellet on the hook, like a little banded 4mm. And that seemed to work. I still don't think it's as good as maggots or casters.
There is, but I always remember, like, obviously I used to do a lot of F1 fishing, and I do think you will catch loads of fish on 4mm pellet shallow.
Yeah.
Loads of fish, but it's just having the confidence to persist with it. It's a little bit different. The fish tend to be a little bit lower in the water. They don't, when you're fishing maggots, they come really shallow, don't they? Because they're obviously the slow sinking bait. With the pellets, they may be a little bit deeper. Probably lends itself a bit more to the jigger. And pellets can be really good, especially on the right venue. Without a doubt.
I mean, we're talking about F1s, and I'm probably related to that video, but
I need live baits, don't they?
They need live baits. But if I was to go proper carp fishing, which obviously that's a category that you talk about shallow fishing, there's not many baits better than pellets, or I was going to say luncheon meat.
Yeah, I was going to say meat's a great
Meat's a fantastic bait. And if
underused
you can,
now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's underused because pellets are so easy. Meat, you go to the supermarket, you know, a cheap supermarket, it's a quid a tin. So it's still quite a cheap bait in comparison to maggots and casters. Cube it up into 6mm bits. You can feed 2 cubes every time you lay your rig in. You could feed 10 cubes or 20 cubes. You could really bladder bait in. You can feed it however you want. They sit in the slick, and you catch big fish, don't you?
Well, I had a great run a few years ago when I was going to tunnel a lot. And at the time, the pegging was really tight, which I think lent itself to my approach. And rather than doing any shallow fishing, I just fish meat against the island. That's all I'd take with me. And I used to remember I put 2 tins for a riddle, make 2 tins worth of mush, and 1 tin of 6mm for the hook, and that was it. 3 tins of meat, and you could get 5 hours and catch. I was doing really well at the time with that.
What, and hooking a 6mm cube?
Hair rigging a 6mm cube, yeah.
So you're feeding your bigger cubes 6mm once the fish are there. But
No. All I was doing was I'd mix an odd bit of 6mm meat into my mush, so there's a little bit of stuff for them to eat.
Okay.
And just using a tiny little.
So it's like quite a cloudy, small particles.
One of them.
Yeah.
Little bottle top.
The old fruit shoot.
Yeah. Shallow water, 18-inch or less, right against the island, and just putting it in. And I tell you what, with that hair rig meat, you don't have to strike. It's just, you just sit there and you, like exactly what you said. You keep going. And in the last hour, big boys move in.
Big boys, yeah. Because it's almost like actually margin, isn't it? That's the shallow water, actually margin. So you mentioned it there. Jigger rigs. A guy just wanted clearing up length of jiggers. What you'd set your length of line at.
Depends on the venue, doesn't it?
I think it depends on the venue. It depends how deep the fish are feeding. But generally, I think a metre. If you put your jigger rigs on a metre of line, you're not going to be going far wrong, are you?
It is very venue dependent, that, because like Loco Lake at Lindome, for example, where it's deep.
Yeah.
You tend to catch them 2 or 3 feet deep, but then at Tunnel Barn, you catch them really shallow. So it's all about tailoring it to your venue, isn't it?
And you still want obviously that bolt effect, so you don't want loads of loose line.
No.
On the rig, so you want as little line above the jigger as possible at that critical depth you're catching your fish. So if you're catching your fish at 2 or 3 foot deep, you want your rig to be no more than 4 foot long. And obviously, if you're catching your fish at a foot deep, you want your rig no more than 2 foot long, really, because you want that short length of line.
Method, though, isn't it?
And we're rattling through because this all ties in. I don't want to call it monging, but that's what people understand it as. So we're going to call it direct rigs, because I don't want to call it monging, because people do take offence to that. So bolt rigs, direct rigs, just a length of line and a few shot, or a BB, or I think it's moved on a little bit from that. I think there's a few people,
especially on the hard fish venues, partridge and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a few people who've tweaked that method,
refined it,
different shotting arrangements. One chap's asked me, do you think it's a viable method ethically, and is it better than fishing with a float?
Yes and yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you're like me, you just want to catch fish, don't you?
Yeah, I don't see the problem with it. If it's within the rules, then what it's no different. You're putting a hook in the fish anyway, so it's not like ethically it's wrong. It's not morally wrong, is it? The fact that you haven't got a float on. If it's within the rules, it's fine.
Yeah.
And it's deadly.
Yeah.
I
No,
ain't got a problem with it.
if you can get your rig right, and like I say, like every method, it's been refined. And let's get right. When the feeder first came about, people had problems with that. When the method feeder then came about, people had problems with that. And now all those sort of methods are just taken as a viable fish catching method. And
Look, Rob, we'd all want to fish with a freebie 8 Chianti, laying it in nice and slow and getting your bites on the drop. But the problem is the weights are too high nowadays for that. Yeah. So while there is a place for that kind of fishing, there is also a place for the self-hooking rig. So
and it's venue dependent. And I also say there's loads of venues up and down the country. You can just vote with your feet. If you don't like that sort of thing, or you don't feel you can compete, or you just feel it's wrong, you don't have to go. You can go somewhere down the road and probably catch the same amount of fish doing the methods you want to do.
I go to places that don't allow it because I don't want to do it personally, but I haven't got a problem with it.
No, so I think it's one of those things that if you really got into it and you were one of those guys that had mastered it,
good luck to you.
Yeah, good luck to you. But
there's more to it. Steve Openshaw springs straight to mind.
Yeah,
he just absolutely sacks up with it, and I don't know what his rigs are, but apparently he uses really little shot and things like that. So it's good, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's about the fall, isn't it?
There's refinement and everything, Robin.
It's not about getting it, just hanging it there. It's about getting the fall right as it goes through the water. Same with jiggers. Often that shallow fishing covered. There's someone who's asked about shallow rigs, but we could touch on that.
What about mugging, Rob? Because someone mentioned, can't find it, but it caught my eye when I was looking through the other day about mugging fish. And you are a mugging master, I'd say.
I love mugging fish.
You are the man.
I like to think that I was the first, not the first, but one of the first guys actually successfully go in and just mugging fish. Now it came about from just a chance sort of like conversation or listening into a conversation after a Fishermania match at Woodland View. Neil Machin, well, previous year, there's venue that I used to go to, the fish would cruise around. And like everyone, you think, oh, you can't catch these fish. And occasionally you'd catch one. And you'd see all these fish cruising around and everyone just think they're unobtainable fish. And then I overheard Neil Machin talking about how he caught his fish at Woodland View. And he said, I fished a worm and cast a shallow with a little kinder pot. And he said, and I seen this one out the corner of my eye cruising to my peg, and a big boy, and that's what actually won him the match. This one fish tipped him over the edge. And he says, so I've took my rig, slapped it in front of him, clunk, the fish has had it straight away. I was thinking, never really thought of it like that. I wonder if you could actually, because this venue I was going to, Peatling, these fish just cruised around all day. No one ever thought of actually going after them. And I thought, I wonder if there's a way of making this a method. So what I ended up doing was feeding pellets all day. And people used to think I'd got some secret pellets that were amazing, but they weren't. They were just the smaller pellets as I could possibly feed. I'd feed pellets all day in front of me, just for a rattle on the surface. And what had happened is these fish would cruise around the edges and never really settle over the feed. Because they never settled on this venue, and on most venues, I still don't think they're settling over pellets, proper carp on anyway, properly, like they used to. Never really settled on the feed. You'd get a pod of 5 or 6 fish come in. They come to the edge of the feed, then scoot off. But what I was doing was catching these fish before they'd even got to the feed. So I'd wait to see a pod of fish coming in. I'd be standing up. I didn't twig about standing up until a few matches in, and then I'd catch these fish. And for a period, it was unbeatable. Then the venue I fishing didn't like it. Some of the guys didn't like it because some of the guys fishing these smaller matches, the older blokes, they don't want to be doing that sort of thing. They don't want to be standing up. So they banned standing up. Then a couple more lads started doing it. And then they banned intentionally chasing the fish.
It all gets a bit of grey areas.
It all gets a bit of grey areas. But in the meantime, I'd been to Moreland's Farm on a Fishermania match and qualified for the Fishermania final. And then 2 years later, I'd been to Heronbrook. And it was a really hard day. I only had 70-something pound, but I caught half my fish mugging that day. And they were just it was just, because it was the early days of it, seemed like it was hard to work out. And when I look back, the fish were easier to mug then than they are now. Everyone's standing up now, and everyone's having a go at a fish, and
the fish are on edge now, aren't they?
The fish are on edge, but I tell you what, they will still have a go. I remember a match. We ended up catching nothing. It was actually, you reminded me last time talking about Adam Richards, because Adam Richards was on the lake below me. Balding's Pools 8 years ago, something like that. I had Andy May opposite, Darren Cox to my right, Matt Hall opposite me to my left, and I was in a bit of a corner. And it was sort of a no-hope peg, but you're fishing for your section, basically. Andy May fished a little waggler, and he tried to mug these fish on a little waggler, because obviously he loves fishing waggler. And these fish were cruising around all day. There was thousands of fish there. And they were cruising around all day, and I switched baits, and you had to get the timing exactly right to slap it in front of the fish, get it to fall right in front of his face, and you'd eventually get one. And maggots was the bait. They wouldn't take a pellet. They wouldn't take, whether it sank too fast for them or they just didn't want to know. Maggots was the bait. And as I remember, I only caught probably like 10 or 12 fish. But it was enough to do all right on the day. I think maybe won the section or second section, something like that. Andy May lost a fish that day on his waggler. And I mugged a fish, and it still had Andy May's rig, not his waggler, but it still had his rig attached with the double maggot, because he was using maggots as well. So it just shows that instinctively, even though that fish has been hooked and theoretically should spook, instinctively they still will have a snap at something. And I think that's where people don't like, they feel it's not proper fishing because the fish isn't feeding.
I think it's the work rate with the method as well, because I've seen Andy Power do it, and obviously he's notorious for it, and he's fantastic at it. And his work rate is relentless. And I always remember, you remember your old mate Joe Oakes, Poacher Joe, was doing really well at Shearsby a few years ago, and he was literally mugging for 5 hours, and it was like I was going and mugging an odd one, and I'm like, I can't do it. But then I actually sat and watched Joe one day do it, because he was opposite me, and he just did it the whole match. And he'd have slow spells, but then he'd have spells where a bigger group came in front of him, and he'd just pick them off. And all of a sudden, he's put 30 pounds in his net, and you're like, and the penny dropped. I was like, oh, this isn't just a
I had a brilliant day
thing.
I had a brilliant day at Monks. Is it Monks Lakes? Not Monks Lakes.
Kent.
No, not Monks Lakes. It used to be a UK Champs venue. Not Monks Lakes. Coleman's Cottage. The back lakes, and Tommy Pickering was opposite, and just odd big fish. And I've just mugged all day, kept my pole off the water, and this is when I was like sort of doing it the most. And Tommy's come round, and I've weighed in, and he goes, "Oh right, I didn't think you got anything, pal." And I didn't really know Tommy then. I said, "Yeah, I've had a fish." He says, "I didn't think you were even fishing. I didn't think you got anything," because it is that sort of method where you're not really doing anything, but you're doing a lot at the same time. Because you're resting your swim, you're moving your pole, you're in and out, and you probably don't. For every fish you have a go at, you miss 5 or 6, and for every fish you catch, you've had 10 attempts at fish.
But it's getting into that mindset, because if you're fishing up against an island normally, or 5 meters, or whatever you're doing, you have to miss bites, you have to feed, you have to work your peg to get the fish in the peg in the first place, and all that takes time. But sometimes when you just sat there mugging and waiting for a fish to come in front of you, you think, "Oh, I'm wasting time here." But you'd have been wasting that time fishing with a normal method.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
these are the decisions. It's just hard to get your head around it, isn't it? Sometimes
this is the decisions you got to make though in match fishing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think it's definitely a viable method.
If we were out today, this is mugging central, isn't it? Early season, this is mugging.
Yeah, and I tell you what, when we get back fishing,
it'll be mugging.
Those fish won't have seen any bait. No. They won't have seen an angler. They'll be really easy to catch mugging.
The Glebe was the best example of that, because obviously they have a closed season, and we used to always have a DHP match a week before it opened, and literally every fish you could flick it in front of would have it.
Yeah, the Glebe used to be an amazing place to do it, but they're not now. They have really wised up.
They get caught a lot more now.
I think either the first or the second Ivor Marks match, that's how I caught my fish. I had 300 odd pound. It was so simple. This was in the early days. It was so simple. I was catching them like a top kit out. Just if one had cruised by, drop it in. You didn't even have to lay it in properly. They'd just have it, and it was just such an easy place to do it.
I don't know about you. I know people knock it, but I love it. I really enjoy it.
Yeah, I think if you
hunting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hunting. Yeah, especially when you're doing it with waggler as well, because that's obviously coming up into it now. Isn't it?
Now you're talking.
Yeah, coming in.
But come on then. So let's move on. That's
Yeah, go on
mugging.
then.
We love it.
That's shallow. That's shallow fishing and mugging. We love it. Any methods are go for us.
Yeah.
Go on. Let's have another quick.
As long as it's within the rules.
Yeah, within the rules. Go
Right,
on.
here's
Let's have
one
a
then.
question.
If ghosted top kits work, why not make the whole pole ghosted? If I'm fishing the far shelf of a snake lake whilst building a shallow swim down the track, I don't want a huge black 5, 6, 7, and 8 section above their heads. Makes a good point.
It makes a very good point.
Makes
Remember
a good
the
point.
old Triana poles?
Yeah.
They had some, what did they call them? Reef?
Can't remember. Even Maver had a spell, didn't they? A bit of grey.
Yeah, Suncore finish, reflex. But he's got a good point. Why isn't he on the product development team?
Why isn't he on the pole? Come on, Kinky Pellet, get us in. Is it time for a ghost pole?
Yeah. Yeah. But
Wouldn't do any harm, would it?
No, I'll tell you the only problem with those sort of things is the stigma. There's still a big stigma attached, isn't there? To
Are you a ghost top kit man?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I've got a few prototypes of the black top kits that I use just for light elastics, and then I've got ghost top kits because I just think they're obviously not. They don't hurt. They can only benefit. So it's one of those things where you just think I might be adding a couple of extra % there to my results.
Success, yeah.
Yeah, I'm all for them. They're not hurting at all.
I am. But no, he makes a good point with that.
There's no stigma now either because so many people are using them, aren't there?
Yeah.
So many people are using them. You're not the odd one out anymore.
Well,
I remember, do you remember the Hullcroft?
Yeah.
When I was telling you about the Hullcroft story, how clever the carp were.
The horseshoe around the pole end.
The horseshoe around the pole end. Me and Sean Huggins had a spell just going Hullcroft. And by no means we were experts there at the time. There was this time when Jamie Masson was going, Neil McKinnon was going. They were doing really well. Shallow pellet.
Shallow fishing, yeah.
Yeah, it was all shallow pellet. And you'd feed your bait, and there used to be a 14.5 metre limit at Hullcroft. So everyone's pole, yeah, it still is, yeah. Everyone's pole was exactly 14.5 metres long. And you'd sit there fishing shallow all day. And you'd think, this is rock hard. And the weights weren't massive. £60, £70 often get you in the frame. And I remember one day lifting my pole up and sort of lifting it up quite high in the air and waving it, whether I'd got a tangle or whatever, but I waved it, and a horseshoe of carp around my pole. I don't know whether every carp has got a tape measure in Hullcroft, but a horseshoe of carp around my pole, all bolted off, all swelled away, and I didn't even know they were there. The week after, Sean, my mate, is really he's quite reactive to stuff like that, and he loves making kit, and he loves coming up with ideas. The week after, he turned up with a white top kit, and then ever since, he's always used them, and he's felt that they make a massive difference. And he fishes quite a lot of hard.
He does fish hard venues, doesn't he?
Hard commercials. He's sure they make a difference.
Yeah, I am.
And if he thinks they do, I do as well.
Yeah, I'm well up for them.
Yeah,
well up for them. Go on. Have you got one there first?
Yeah. This is for you because I don't store them. I just make all my rods up at home. But you mentioned your shockers last week. Storing them. How do you store them?
Just on a foam spool, same as.
So do you cut them at a specific length?
Yeah, I have all my big ones at 7 meters.
Yeah.
And then I just have my small ones on a.
Do you put a rig on them?
Yeah, put a rig. They're all ready to go, so I can just blood knot them on. I use a loop and a blood knot. I know you use a return water knot, but I just use a loop and a blood knot, and just store them on foam spools. I don't store them on the Preston Revolution ones because they're a bit small.
You think that's kink up the shot?
I have some bigger ones that I bought. I think they're from a sea fishing brand. I can't remember. Tronics, is it? Tronics, yeah. I put slits in them all the way around and just put them in on order.
Okay.
That's it. Simple as that.
Nice and neat. Nice and neat.
I don't go mad though. I only have a couple tied up, just in case.
Okay. Right. Hook length diameter. Does it make a difference?
Massive.
Yeah. So there's a chap here who's fishing. I think he was fishing 0.18, and he wants to know if he makes a difference or if he goes to 0.15. Does it actually make a difference? You
know me, Rob. I'm a light line guy.
Yeah.
And hang on.
What have you got now?
This one. One for you, one for Rob.
One for me. What is it? More sausage sandwiches?
Look, I've got another one. I've got two now. There's one for you, one for me.
Oh, nice. That other one will be cold.
Yeah, well. Yeah, so I'm a light line guy, massive light line guy. Always have been, always will be. And
So let's give everyone a guideline. F1s and the odd carp. F1, like if you're talking Snake Lake sort of fishing.
010 and 012.
Yes, that's the. I use 012. Summer fishing, I don't want to go down lower
Yeah.
than 010, 012 really.
Yeah.
But yeah, 012, 010.
Yep.
Let's go for like proper carping now, sort of.
My favourite all-time line for carp is like 011 reflow power,
Okay.
which is obviously a bit thicker.
Yeah.
It's probably about 012, 013.
Yeah.
But it's so strong.
Yeah.
And I've just caught so many fish on that over the years. You can
So
use it
although
13 hollow. No
you wouldn't
problem.
use it. You wouldn't use it for catching 300 pound in the edge.
I caught 297 pound at the Glebe once on 011.
Did you?
Power. Yeah.
Right.
Shallow though. That was shallow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I light lines for me definitely make a difference.
Yeah.
I don't know whether I don't think they can necessarily see what's going on with the
I
line.
think it's how your bait falls,
But
personally.
it's how your bait falls and how supple supple everything is as well in the water. I just think the fish can sense when something's wrong, not necessarily through seeing it, but I just think they can sense that something's wrong there.
Yeah, I've had it so many times, Rob. Even when they're crawling up the bank,
Yeah,
and you think, oh, it can't make a difference today, and they're like that pushing your float around, and you think, because I've fell into the trap so many times when you're like, oh, I need to catch 200 pound today.
Yeah.
Best fish 019 straight through or something. And it's not that. You've got to get the bite in the first place, haven't you?
Yeah, you have. Yeah, and carp fishing especially, you can only catch one fish at a time, can't you?
Mm.
So if you manage to catch your fish on 011, take your time, get it out. Well, you get the next one out as well.
Yeah.
It's just you just got to take your time, and obviously we carry so many spare hook lengths. You just got to keep an eye on your hook length.
Yeah.
And if you see signs of it, or there's a little nick in, just swap it over, just change it. But definitely thinner line gets you more bites. I'll tell you where it gets you more bites as well, method feeder fishing. Because obviously the more supple the line, the better it's going to sit on your feeder. It's not going to spring away from your feeder.
It presents better, doesn't it?
Yeah, and certain brands are better as well, aren't there? Certain brands of line. The fluorocarbons, I get a lot of questions asking about fluorocarbon for method feeder work, hook lengths. And for me, there's everything that I don't want a method feeder hook length to do. It's just too stiff. It springs everything away. Now, I can imagine that might have benefits in certain situations, but I want my hook bait to be as close to that little pile of bait and sit on that little pile of bait and be as supple as possible when a fish comes and picks it up.
Yeah.
Is that right?
I think
so. Do you agree with that? Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. All of my success on the method has been trying to be as cute as I can with it.
Yeah.
So.
I think the fish on a lot of these venues have seen 020 hook lengths and big hooks, and you catch fish doing that. When it's a good day, you're fishing for proper carp, and it's summer, you catch fish. I think just scaling things down definitely gets you more bites.
Tell you what's a good, if anyone's ever doubtful about the strength of lines and stuff, go to a silverfish match on a commercial venue in the winter and fish 08 and find out how hard it is to break. And that'll just give you a bit of confidence maybe in using light lines. I wouldn't say it's, 013, 015 is like your general carp line, I'd say, which is great. But, don't worry, if you've got to use 012 and stuff, match it with a good elastic, a nice elastic, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, I think a bit more elastic in your top kit as well. A lot of short kits now. There's a lot of people with short kits now, and you run out of elastic quite quickly.
Yeah.
And it means that you have to just up everything. You have to up your hook size, up your line, because you're playing fish on a tight bowstring. You're not playing them on the elastic anymore. So a bit more elastic in your top kit, maybe. Bit of a lighter elastic, and just take your time, and you'll be surprised how many fish you get and how many more bites you get as well with that lighter gear.
Definitely. So, yeah, good question. There was one here that I wanted to answer. Let me see if I can find it. Oh my god!
But while are you looking for that,
Rob, my day's getting even better. Look.
What have you got now, crisps? No,
got a beer now.
Beer. Yeah, I know. Well, you like that beer, don't you? What beer is it?
It's a Brewdog Punk IPA. Look.
Oh, you got to deal with them, have you?
I'm actually a shareholder, Rob.
Feeder gum.
Feeder gum, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Feeder gum. In
Cheers,
your rig,
everyone.
when you're fishing a little open end feeder, because we've both messed around with this, do you like the idea of putting some feeder gum in there?
Yeah, I love the idea of it.
Right. But you just don't like the tangles that you get with
tangles.
Yeah, I've noticed. I tried 4 and 6 pound and those lighter strengths of feeder gum, and I've ended up just using sort of like the £14 because I
Yeah.
think there's more stretch there than mono. It's absorbing it. And this is really for the guys that want to fish braid direct. It's obviously better than fishing braid direct, £14 feeder gum. And it's still just about stiff enough to kick your hook length away from your main line. But whether it's doing much, I'm not too sure.
I love the idea of it. And there was times in Hallcroft in the winter where you use, because the fish there are huge, aren't they?
Yeah.
And you'd hook them on 010 and get them in.
Mm.
And I'm sure that played a large part of it.
Yeah.
But I worry about it, like how I fish. I think when we're using thicker lines and stuff, I don't think it'd be a problem.
No.
But does that defeat the object anyway?
Yeah, of course. So I tell you where the time where we used it, and I thought, and there's some pictures actually, which reminded me of it, was in South Africa for the World Champs there.
Yeah.
That's where we first started as a sort of England team using that feeder cup. Because a lot of the fish were sort of 10 ounce to a pound carp, which is great. We're fishing maybe 20 metres out, 11 foot, 10 foot rods, so reasonably soft rods. And you typically go round, you've got a pound carp on the end. And the fish fought quite hard. So you'd be able to turn a pound carp quite easy. But then occasionally you get a unit, we called them units, which are like 2 kilo fish. And just occasionally a 2 kilo, like a 5 pounder, they'd pick your bait up, you're fishing to a clip, because we always like to fish to a clip to control where we're casting to, and keep ultimate control of the swim. And you'd have to flick that clip off pretty quickly because the water was only 2 foot deep, and you've hooked a 5 pound carp, and he obviously wants to zoom off to the horizon. And you have to flick your clip off quickly, but occasionally you're just right at the end and you're holding your rod like that, and then you've got to flick it off. And that power gum stopped us from pulling out a fish or from getting hook length snaps, definitely.
And of course, you caught that great big catfish, didn't you? Was it on your big net?
That was on that rig, yeah. So the strength-wise, it held upon that, but that was a prime example. I'm not too sure I'd have got that catfish out with just a standard rig, because obviously when you hook a big fish and it wants to go, and you've got a clip, and sometimes there's a bit of faff just getting your line from under the clip, and you just want that extra split second, and that's what that power gum did. I'm not too sure about it keeping the hook in the fish.
Yeah, just 2 seconds, Rob. Let me just pause it. Right, okay, back going. And it says your bandwidth is low again.
Is it?
Mm.
It caught up last time, didn't it?
Yeah.
Right, so what's another?
Yeah, so that's good. So I think Jerry's still out on that. If you can use it and use it with confidence, then I'm all for it, personally. But
yeah, it's the tangles that's the issues, yeah.
Here's a good one then. Do you vary the way you prep 2 mil pellets? So this is for you because I don't use a hybrid feeder. So he says, do you prep 2 mil pellets for the hybrid feeder and pellet feeder different to the method feeder? Because he says, I've tank tested my pellets that I prepare from method within a pellet feeder and they don't seem to come out.
Right. Well, I think you've got to be looking at the pellets that you use. So you want something that's you want a tiny bit of stick for a hybrid or method, but you still want everything to break down and sort of like mushroom up. Whereas obviously a pellet feeder, you can put some really spongy pellets in there, and the pellet feeder protects them a lot easier. So you don't need the stick. You don't need the stickiness in there. So a pellet that I would use at the minute, I'm looking there. Hang on a second. Hang on.
Rob's just going to get some props ready for his thing. It's a good question, this is.
Hang on.
Good question. I am hanging on. It's a good question. I'll just have a sip of my beer. Cheers, everyone.
Let me give you a for instance.
Okay.
So these pellets, and obviously batches change all the time of pellets, but at the minute, these pellets, you won't be able to see them. I don't know why I've even done that. These pellets are 2 mil. They're the F1 sweets. One of the reasons that quite a few people are using these is not because, well, I use them because of the flavour, but it's not necessarily the flavour. But these pellets at the minute are a very, very spongy pellet, really, really spongy. So what that's doing is that is enabling me to mould my pellets around the feeder, but then the sponginess is releasing the bait quite quickly. So if I was using a pellet feeder, I could use them neat, but if I want to use them on a method or a hybrid, shut them down there, they're probably going to come off on the cask because they're that spongy. So then you want to add just something a little bit different to them. So these are, at the minute, the Aminos originals. I don't know if you can see the pellets. You might be able to. But these have got, you can see when you look at the pellets, they're not as smooth an edge. They are a bit more crumbly. They're a bit stickier. So that is why I cut these with those swim stems, because these add the stickiness for my method feeder work. So yes, preparing your pellets is a little bit different, but it's really down to the sort of pellets that you're using. That's my opinion. So I've got that. You've got to marry the sponginess and with the stickiness. It's all about the release of your hook bait and how the bait falls as a pile, because you just got to remember that it's not a rock hard lump of bait on the bottom that the carp want. It's that soft little pile of bait that they can come in and suck up in one go.
Well, that leads me on to a point that this chap hasn't made, but one that I want to make. Because I always remember in the early days of method feeder fishing, it was like how I was having loads of success. I was using ground bait at the time, and I'd sort of lay it in my palm, press it on, put my bait in, press it on, chuck it out. Now, obviously, the trend is to ram it on rock hard like a dead stone, take all the air out of it, and it just sits there on the bottom. Like everybody tells you now, don't they? Ram it on as hard as you can. Yeah, I went out with Finn last summer, who catches so many fish, and he still just presses it in ever so gently. And he's obsessed with getting the air in the feeder so it breaks down quickly. He uses a slightly stickier mix to compensate for that, and stickier pellets. He barely presses. He doesn't give it this, and he's not got it on his leg, pressing it as hard as he can into the mold. Yeah. What do you think to that?
Well, I think you'll see me occasionally fishing a method feeder, and I'll be ramming my bait on the feeder, but it won't be the first layer. If I'm ramming my bait on the feeder, it'll be the last layer. So what I'll try and do is I'll probably try and put the first layer on really, really soft, and then ram that last layer on, because that's not quite compressing that bottom layer. So I've trapped some air in that bottom layer. So I've still got a hard feeder to maybe withstand a really long range cast, but there's air trapped in the base layer that helps mushroom it out.
Yeah.
And obviously the shorter you're casting, the less you need to ram the bait on, because like I say, and as obviously the good method feeder anglers have worked out, it's that soft pile of bait that the fish want. It's not that it's not that rock hard parcel of bait. They don't want to come up to a rock hard ball of pellets and then pick up one single bright bait. That's not what you're looking for. You're looking for a nice soft pile of bait that's the size of, a 50p piece. They suck it all up in one go, and they move away, and they've got your hook bait by almost coincidence.
There's because there's a trend now where people are obsessed with having bait left in the bars on the feeder, and like Finn hates that, and that's something I don't like, because I don't think my mix is breaking down very well. And I think as it's gone on now with method feeder fishing, people are seeing it more as like a mugging method, like you're chucking it out and trying to find the fish. But there's a time now, especially from now on to September, October,
where you want to feed some bait.
Well, you're building the peg.
Yeah.
So you've got to feed the swim, haven't you?
Yes, of course. Yeah, you've got to leave some bait in the swim.
Yeah, so I don't know.
And again, this comes down to the venues that you're fishing, because now we've got to take into account what sort of bottom we're fishing on. Because if you're leaving a lot of bait in your peg, we touched on this last time, and the bottom's really silty, is that going to cause problems? So I know that Finn goes a lot of places, he's casting up against an island.
Yeah.
The bottom's probably quite hard up against the island.
Yeah, and the bait's getting cleared out.
Bait's getting cleared out, and it's obviously an ideal place for a fish to actually pitch up, and you can make a swim there. You can attract fish into that area.
You get the tails out and all that.
You get the tails out and all that. So that's when you want to leave some bait there. Then on venues where it's very silty, okay, maybe try not to leave as much bait there. But that's when you probably mould the first layer in rock hard, and then your second layer is that layer that just breaks down. So when you see maybe anglers like Steve, and he's fishing Barson or Boddington, and he's using it as a mugging method, it's because he's in an open water situation, and he knows that if he feeds too much bait, he's going to cause problems in that one area of his swim. If he was on gravel, maybe I think it'd be different.
And he's also leaving it in for a long time as well.
Yeah, leaving it in for a lot longer. Yeah.
Good,
interesting. Method feeder fishing. It's not just chuck it and chance it, is it? Method feeder fishing.
It's never ending, isn't it? It's never ending.
Yeah, it is.
It's never ending. Any more, Rob? We got any more?
Right. Will matches be fairer because no one has been fishing and no one's got an advantage? So obviously a normal bloke, he gets fishing once a week, once every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
If obviously work allows, his missus allows, his kids allow, you know, everyone's got different priorities. And then he's fishing against the venue expert. It annoys them. I know it does. Who's been at the venue all week. But because we've all had this really long layoff, is there going to be still loads of people who are in tune with the venue? That's a question I've had. So I think it's quite hopeful for these guys who can only get out once in a while. But
I think the good anglers still come to the fore.
break their dreams.
Yeah.
But the good anglers are still going to do well. The good anglers, what they generally do is they remember certain scenarios, certain situations far better. So even if they've not visited a venue for maybe a year even, they probably last time they visited the venue was under similar circumstances. So the big match scene is a prime example. The guys that chase these Fishermanias or Golden Reels or Maven Match they don't fish. They're not really venue experts on certain venues, but they'll go to the bigger venues and maybe visit them for 2-3 times a year. That's all they'll visit those venues. But they're visiting those venues for the same sort of match every time. So they understand how each venue fishes.
Scenario.
Yeah, in May, with 130 pegs, with the peg in every one, peg one, miss one. And it's a very constant way. It's a very constant style of match that they're fishing. So they don't have to worry about the 10 pegger that went on Wednesday or the 20 pegger that happened the week before. They're fishing that one or two big matches a year, and they just remember it far better than a lot of other guys. So yeah, unfortunately, your better anglers are going to be better. It's get out on the bank, get
out and get fishing.
Yeah, get out and get fishing, and yeah.
No, I tend to agree with you there. Your good anglers will still be hard to beat.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Right, your turn now. Have you got another one?
Someone says here, enjoying the content. Does a lasso give better presentation of band? I think we covered that last time, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Heavy or light floats for margins?
Again, that's a depend. You talk through this because you I think we've both sort of do the similar sort of thing, don't we?
Yeah, I think it depends, doesn't it? It really does depend on a lot on the bait and a lot on the fish you're fishing for. I'm all for fishing heavy floats when I want to. If I've got a very little spot in the swim that I want to fish in, like a little flat spot, like a dinner plate, I suppose. Yeah. You want your hook bait on it as long as possible, don't you? And obviously, a heavy float, a 4x14, and a 4x16 will give you the best chance in the turbulent
Keep talking because
water.
I've got a rig I'm going to show you. Keep talking. I'm going to rig. I've got 2 rigs
to keep it there. So obviously, you want a nice big bulk, a big hook bait, something that'll pin your bait on top, pin your rig, on top of your loose feed, which is on the plate, on the dinner plate. That being said, I have had a lot of success as well, flicking a lighter rig in the same situation. So it really is a case of, working out hard on the venue and working out what the fish prefer. I'd say a heavy float is the best, personally, but again, it depends on your bait choice, I think, a lot of the time. What do you reckon, Rob?
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to how many fish you've got in your swim as well.
Yes.
So you've got a lot of fin movement. I don't know if you've covered this, but you've got a lot of fin movement in your peg, and you want to, like you say, you want to nail your bait dead still. So if you have not got loads and loads of fish in your peg and you're trying to just nail your bait, setting a trap and waiting for 1 or 2 fish to come in, that's sort of like my margin style float.
Yeah.
That's sort of like body down pattern.
Yeah.
And then I just like to use a simple bulk in the edge. You're only fishing sort of like 2 foot deep maximum usually in the edge. Now that'd be my sort of like 4x12s for 2 foot. That'd be my starting rig. But what I usually have set up, especially I'm treating margins as islands as well. So similar to if you're fishing across to an island as well. Now if I've got loads of fish in my peg, and I think this might be something you'll like. If I've got loads of fish in my peg, I want something that is very, very oof, and it just sits there. And all those fins, all those tails.
Right, go.
Are we back?
Yeah.
We're back? Right. I've got a little cut down, old.
That's a old Preston job, isn't it?
He's an old Preston float. I think he's a Jura.
Yeah, the old Juras, yeah.
Old Juras. For no other reason that it's that body down shape that I like, and he's 0.5 gram, but he's only 2.5 inch maximum length. And then as weight, because again, I want everything to be really dense and I want it to be really solid on the bottom. I've got, put that there.
Look at that.
It's a little, I've seen these. It's a weird Olivet. I think you used to have some for
Probably.
fishing on the Stainer
Probably.
with your bloodworm. So obviously it's a really dense, little tiny 0.5 gram Olivet. And what I'll have then is a little 2-inch, 3-inch hook length, which means that everything is really still, really stable. And quite often that heavy rig, when you're fishing for big fish or you've got a lot on your peg, just outscores that light rig when your float's doing this across the top when a fish comes
it's no
in.
good, is it? It's
just no good.
No
So,
good.
yeah, I think heavy rigs have definitely got their place in the edge.
Oh, massive.
Again, depends how many fish you've got in your
Because it was hard to, I always remember when this goes back to, we'll make this the last question, Rob, because I'm conscious that the day is beautiful and we want to get outside. But
yeah, and you've got a sausage sandwich.
And I've got a sausage sandwich and a beer to drink. But when I used to go to the Oaks all the time at Sesse, this was years ago. This was the mud line, as far as I'm concerned, it's kind of invented there. And it was like one of the places where there was a few anglers. There was Chris Hall, Rob Minikin and Adi Mitchell, who used to just take it apart, and they used to fish pellets across, and nobody else could make it work. Obviously, they understood the feeding, but at the time, they were using a 4x12 Drennan Carp 2. Or it might have been the Carp 1, the little, like that shape that you've got there, but it's a little sturdy float. And at the time, everyone else was using 4x10s, 4x8s, because they thought that's what you needed in shallow water. And they were using a 4x12, and even a 4x14 on some days. And we were like, God, that's barbaric, what they're doing. But then I actually watched them, and I've seen these fish coming in and stirring it up, and their float would sit there. And it was like, again, it was one of them penny drop moments.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get your head around that in the shallow water, you might need a heavier float than what you do down the middle.
Yeah.
But it's totally different, isn't it? Because the water movement in that shallow water is so much.
It's totally different. Yeah, it's totally different. But yeah, definitely, you need get yourself some heavy floats, cut them down. Like I say, that body shape I've just showed you, that body down sort of egg shape, is a great shape because you can cut them down, and there's a lot of weight in that small amount of float. And yeah, like I say, heavy float, get your shot in right close to your hook, and that's the rig to use when you've got loads of fish in your peg. Yeah. What are you going to do now? Barbecue?
Well, I'm going to enjoy my sausage sandwich.
Yeah.
Got the paddling pool out.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to do a bit of gardening, Rob, to be honest with you.
I want some wood. I want some wood to come, but I just don't think anywhere will be open, will it?
No.
No.
I think Wicks and that are delivering though. If you wanted a bit of
I don't know if is it an essential thing getting some wood. I want to do some borders for the old garden.
Yeah, I've done that. I've just done some borders.
Trim the old astroturf up and get the borders sorted.
Yeah, nice. But thank you everybody again, once again, for
yeah,
watching us.
Loads of positivity. Comment below.
Coming.
More questions. We're going to try and do one every couple of days. Keep everyone's morale up. Keep our morale. Stop us going insane. More questions. If you want us to show you something, we can do that. Because
are we going to get a guest on next time, Rob?
We could do. I just don't know how to work. We could get a guest on.
We can get Leon or somebody.
We'll see if Lee's up for it.
If Lee's up for it.
Yeah, he's been doing his bedtime stories, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been doing his bedtime stories. I'll tell you who I'd love to get on because you keep mentioning him. Sean Huggins.
Sean Huggins should never, ever do this.
Ah, it's a shame.
Sean Huggins should never, ever.
I'll tell you who might do. My old mate Adam Richards might.
Yeah, he might do, yeah. Yeah, get him on.
Get him on. Because he fishes different.
Is he computer literate?
Oh, yeah, of course he is.
Is he?
Yeah.
Yeah. He'd have some old stories, wouldn't he? We'll have a think. Yeah, we'll have a think who we can get on.
Thanks, everybody.
Toodaloo.
Toodaloo. See you, everyone.
Toodaloo. See you later.